Hi, I'm William Malik with your bit of security for Monday, the 13th of January, 2025. Today, we're going to take a break, and I mean that literally. Marshall McLuhan said that we are chained to our metaphors, so to speak. What I'd like to do is take a moment to look at three metaphors that are often used to describe information security. And I'm going to track those as a model for our increasing understanding of the way in which cybersecurity fits into business processes. Now, I understand that reasoning by analogy is imprecise, but the reason we do it is that people are more likely to be persuaded by the right word, by a compelling phrase, than they are by a spreadsheet or any degree of precision in a numerical estimate of something. So we're going to talk about a well-chosen word, or in this case, three instances of well-chosen word. About 100 years ago, the race car manufacturer Ettore Bugatti remarked when he was criticized about the poor brakes in his vehicle, he said, "I build them to go, not to stop." So you say, well, wait a second. Where have I heard that more recently? Well, Elizabeth Holmes, the felon, said that she doesn't believe in doing disaster recovery planning because it envisions failure. We now know that the reason she wasn't interested in doing disaster recovery planning was that developing a solid continuity of operations plan means that you have to have a thorough audit of your business, and she was engaged in massive fraud, and a thorough audit would have uncovered it. But in reality, Bugatti was being sincere. He was facing a hard problem building a fast car, and that took up all of his time, so he didn't have time to focus on the brakes. In the early days, information security was an afterthought. It still may be in your organization and your team. The mission that doesn't speak to safety or trustworthiness or privacy or security explicitly is a mission that is ultimately going to fail. But at least you can say, well, I was the first one to try to climb this mountain. Yeah, I didn't make it, but I tried. Well, we now know that you need to do a little bit more. Um, you've got to be able to get past the I build them to go. And there again, another contemporary version of I build them to go was Scott McNealy's famous statement, "You have no privacy, get over it." Well, the fact is that ignoring a problem doesn't make it go away. However, statements like that will discourage innovation on trying to solve a problem like that. It's not security's job to eliminate risk. The board of directors determines how much risk the organization chooses to face. It's information security's job to be able to guide the organization to manage the impact of that risk on the organization, which brings us to our second metaphor. Rhonda McLean spoke at a keynote for the Gartner Information Security Conference some time ago, and she made a very interesting point. She asked the audience, why do you put brakes on cars? Most people say, well, to slow down. But she would point out that that's what they do, but that's not what they're for. If you want a slow car, build a slow car, and you won't have to worry about the cost of the brakes at all. The reason you put brakes on a car is so you can go fast until you need to stop. So the purpose of the brake is to let you exercise that capability. Now, this is more enlightened than Bugatti's approach. We know there's a need for security, but here we have to shift the focus from traditional security, which is telling people what they cannot do, to something more enlightened. In the late 1980s, those of us who were trying to play with it were told, don't use the internet, it's not safe. In the 1990s, we heard, you can't use Wi-Fi at work, it's not safe. What those prohibitions actually mean is you can't use it because we don't know how to secure it yet. That's an entirely different message. The goal of information security is to assist the organization's mission efficiently, effectively, positively. Yet even in that, the focus is still on the misperception that society gets in the way, which brings us to our third, and the one I like the best. The fastest car on the track has to have the best brakes. This sets, in a positive term, why security and trustworthiness and privacy and safety are core functions for any capability. To ignore them is simply negligent. Only a fool would get into a race without adequate preparation or with subpar tools. Plan for success. Build the best brakes. This post is to honor my mother and grandmother, both of whom were English teachers, and Professor Frank Zingroni, my humanities professor my freshman year, all of whom emphasized the need for clear language and critical thinking. Okay, break's over. Now let's get back to it. That's our bit of security for the 13th of January. I'm Bill Malik. Be safe.